So good morning. As Ken mentioned, I'm Shmel Graham, and I'm honored to moderate this panel discussion this morning. We'll have each panelist introduce themselves with 30 seconds, brief update, because we have a jam-packed panel and discussion. But I wanted to just start off and shape our discussion that we are planning to have this morning. As we all know, infrastructure is the backbone of society and the built environment. And the biggest beneficiaries of infrastructure are people. So as we think about opportunities to deliver on the growing needs in cities and counties across this nation, we're always thinking about people at the heart of that. And so with people, it's gonna take both the public and private sector people to work together and collaborate and to deliver on these growing needs. And so that's what we're gonna focus on in our discussion today. So we'll start by having Alicia introduce herself.
Good morning, I'm Alicia Trost. I'm the Chief Communications Officer at BART, just right up north.
Okay. And you know what, I'll add one thing. Since it's been a while since people have been able to get together in person when you do your introduction, can you just share one takeaway that you've had from the past 2.5 years? It could be personal or professional.
I would just say just how important communication is at this very minute in transit because of the pandemic and because of all this new great money we're getting.
Awesome. Okay, we'll turn it over to Colin to introduce himself.
Sure, thanks, Shmel. Colin Papar, Director of Infrastructure Investments with Fengate Asset Management, one of North America's largest and most active P3 investors. One takeaway from the past 12, how many months was it? 12, 24?
24, 26, it's counting.
I think it's really clarified our needs and where we should be directing our efforts, our investments, and our human resources.
Okay, awesome. Glenda?
Good morning, everyone. Legislative representative for Los Angeles World Airports, and I guess the last 24 months has really challenged us to come up with ways and additional funding for items that we were not expected to come across. For example, PPE, different workplace practices. So being able to be nimble and adaptive, and working with other partners to make sure that we can, collaborate and bring all the great minds together to bring additional funding has been, one of the most important things for the last 24 months.
Thank you. Julie?
So Julie Owen, Senior Executive Officer of Project Management Oversight at LA Metro. And the buzzwords that I would say are supply chain disruption and escalating project costs. It's a different world right now.
All right, and last but not least, Sia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sia Kusha, Senior Vice President with Plenary Americas. We are the largest, most invested private development, equity investor, long-term operator, and developer of public infrastructure. My takeaway from the last 24 months has been unmute before you talk. But seriously, it's about adaptability, and it's about flexibility in order to be able to get work done.
Thank you. So what we'll first start off talking about is the project pipeline. So I'll turn it over to you, Julie. But as we know, Metro has about $80 billion projects in the pipeline or contemplated through 2026, which is larger than any agency in the nation. Can you share some of the projects that you guys are currently working on and the challenges of delivering these projects with these aggressive timelines?
First, there's too many to mention. So, actually, wait, wrong way.
Go back.
So here's an animation of our existing system in Los Angeles and everywhere where we're building right now. We have 24 billion in construction right now, 4 billion of which is going to open this year. The regional connector and Crenshaw lines will open this year. And then fast on the heels of that will be the West Side Subway program, Gold Line Foothill. We plan on getting the East San Fernando Transit Corridor out to bid in the next month or so. So that's another major project. Fast on the heels of that is the West Santa Ana branch, also and it's a great time to go for federal funding right now, so we're way up with that. And one of the challenges we have regarding all those projects is, communication of what's coming when, right? And then also, with such a huge program, you mentioned 80 billion, we've got about 30 billion in the planning pipeline right now. Where are all the people going to come from to deliver this program, in advance of getting ready for the Olympics, right? That's our challenge of maxing out the workplace of, consultants of every kind, contractors of every kind, subcontractors of every kind, small businesses of every kind, et cetera, right? So and then further, because Metro serves 88 cities in Los Angeles, it's very important for us to communicate with our stakeholders in these cities where the projects are, what phase they're going to be in, so that they know when their engineering groups need to help us with our permitting processes. Contractors know when the bidding opportunities are going to come out, or design firms know when we're going to bid design, et cetera. So, creating a master schedule that showed all of that, that's phase color code by phase, by mode of transit, and a 50-year schedule. I often joke and say, we could put your children and your children's children to work on this program, and it's true, right? We are transforming the face of LA County. But with that comes challenges, right? We're in an unprecedented time right now. We've already maxed out and gotten to where our pre-pandemic levels of labor were, but there's huge shortages right now of skilled labor. So where are all the folks going to come from to help deliver this program? That's why I said the people. The people is the biggest risk of this program. And we're managing, to look at how do we create a pipeline. One of the things we're doing right now, we do a market analysis. I don't know if any of you guys have ever read the construction market analysis that Metro produces. And some of the recommendations that came out of that market analysis were we need to help industry create a pipeline of talent. So one of the things we had done was a Win LA program, which was partnering with community colleges in Los Angeles to help build the transportation trades. We're going to expand that community college program to possibly have an intro into construction, because there's not trades really in schools anymore, right? No shop, metal shop, wood shop, et cetera. So how do you get people interested in a career in those areas, which are actually really lucrative, right? So looking at seeing, hi Carolina, hi Ivan. How do we get the pipeline going? And then seeing some challenges, just like we did with the vehicles, used cars, now construction equipment, used construction equipment. Prices are going through the roof. We had hoped, we were looking at material pricing and seeing that wood was coming down, but now, I don't know if it's related to Ukraine, but it sure seems to be happening at the same time. Those prices are starting to go back up again on a lot of commodities that we were hoping were going to stabilize in 2022. Now we predict that that might not happen, right? And then, I'll cover in just a moment some of the challenges we're having with our bids as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. So, Colin, as Julie talked about, all of the rail investment within LA County, and we know there's lots of it going throughout the state. What are you seeing post-pandemic as far as the types of projects that are percolating, throughout the state and around the country?
Sure. So some common themes that we've seen for years are, there's continued investment in not just rail, but transportation across the board, roadways, airports, new forms of transportation that are technology enabled are absolutely moving forward. San Diego's done some really interesting things in terms of trying to leverage technology, as has San Jose and a number of other areas. So continued investment in transportation, and then civic infrastructure as the workforce needs have continued to change and evolve as we get our head around hybrid work and kind of what the new world of office space looks like. There's been an interest in trying to figure out how to get investment in civic projects. But then we've also really crystallized some notions around what we need to invest in with some of the emerging needs and challenges related to climate. And so obviously we're dealing with a multi-generational drought. So we're seeing water projects becoming a major priority, and some desire for private investment in particular to try and accelerate the deployment of some pretty important water capacity projects. And then also electrification of the vehicle fleet, and that's the commercial fleet, private fleets, and public fleets, so transit buses, municipal fleets, things like that. Charging those and having the battery capacity to manage the demand for electrons for those big challenges that we are seeing nationwide, actually, folks trying to understand how to invest in utility battery scale storage, how to invest in fleet electrification in a way that is not an undue draw on everybody's own sources of capital, but meeting the needs and the time horizons on a performance-based basis.
Thank you. Sia, what are you seeing?
Pre-pandemic, most of us had recognized that there is significant deferred maintenance and assets that are way beyond their useful life. I think during the pandemic, a whole new set of discrepancies came to light. Access to broadband and the ability to work, study remotely, the whole concept of telehealth, being able to have safe environments to work, being able to use transit facilities that are, that are adaptive and adaptable to current conditions, and so on and so forth. Quite frankly, we think it's a little too early to tell what's happening as a result of a ultimate post-pandemic environment, as well as all the new federal dollars. I think there is a lot of giddiness in the industry that there's going to be this manna from heaven that's going to come from Washington. But as long as the rules are still being developed and processed, except for the formula programs that were issued a couple of weeks ago to state DOTs and some transit agencies, I think there is still a lot of questions to be answered within the environment. Obviously, there is money for broadband, both in terms of rural access as well as underserved urban core. There are new innovative, where's our host? There's new innovations with respect to implementation of broadband and how it can be done leveraging private sector. While maintaining the core asset as a public infrastructure. There is significant conversation about electric vehicle charging, as Colin mentioned. But what's interesting with electric charging is that we really haven't been able to figure out what that scale needs to be. There are very successful examples in Germany and France when there is fleet size capabilities, not only for fleets of transit buses and so on and so forth, but there are fleet size capacity for charging at car parks and at parking garages. The opportunity and the ability to make the deal economics work in this country still haven't been determined. So we look at those as a potential opportunity. As I mentioned, we look at broadband as a potential opportunity. Transportation will continue to be there. It'll be interesting to see exactly how transportation and new face of transit with connected automated vehicles, with group rapid transit and non-traditional transit projects could be funded coming forth. Last but not least, within the civic or what we call social infrastructure, there are plenty of government accommodation facilities, courthouses, schools, K through 12, higher education, hospitals, municipal facilities that are way beyond their useful life. And because of the set-asides, if you will, and the direct appropriations that will be going to municipalities, we are beginning to see a significant increase in interest on behalf of municipal owners who are willing and needing to understand how they can apply and receive federal funding to actually improve their municipal infrastructure. What's interesting is that the law as it is written does provide and does allow for leveraging private sector investments, private sector engagement to multiple the available federal dollars, and hopefully some of those will come and will be used through an innovative integrated delivery methodologies in order for assets to be replaced.
Thank you. So we've already talked a little bit about people, but Alicia, tell us about what BART is doing to improve the user experience.
Yes, so at BART, our capital program, 15-year program is $30 billion, not quite the $80 billion here in LA. And we're very well positioned because several years ago we went to the ballot to get infrastructure bond funds and they were approved. So right now when you come to BART, we are thick in the middle of that rebuilding. And here's a great map that shows, I mean, this is just your basic, like we're replacing cover boards, we're replacing interlockings. We've really perfected track closures at this point. But what was great is that we really understood what our needs are. So as we're getting all this money, we're like, oh, let me just tell you about our needs and our projects and how much money we need. Our number one priority when begging for federal money and as we're moving forward in the next year is our Trans-Bay Core Capacity Program, which is the worst name, and please never name your project something like that, a Trans-Bay Core Capacity Program. What does that mean? So when I go out and talk to people, I pretty much talk about, look, this is how many trains fit through our tube right now. And this program's going to get us to 30, 45% increase of capacity. And so that's through really, really great new train control system, power substations, like all that great infrastructure. But we just don't want to get into the weeds when we talk about that. And so I really want you to start rethinking about your projects. Something as important as a restroom is now more important than ever when communicating. You may get a contract to modernize a station and you're probably thinking the restroom is like the last bullet point. Hell no. That you put that up at top because what that shows is that it's not business as usual anymore. We are here to provide really great service for families and women and children, and you do that by offering them amenities. And so we just reopened 2 restrooms that have been closed since 9/11, and we put full-time attendants in them. Mm-hmm. And our budget staff is like, you want me to pay for an attendant? Absolutely, because that's one more person in a vest who can call someone if something's happening, right? And so not only did we reopen these restrooms, we held a toilet paper ribbon cutting. We streamed it live on Twitter, and I got 1 million impressions for free. Thank you.
That's innovation.
Yes, and we made these great signs. So when Congresswoman Barbara Lee came, she's holding up her sign for social media. So you really need to rethink about your projects and what is so important now and how are we communicating them. So same with, so escalators and elevators. Our infrastructure bond is paying for the escalators, but you know what's more important than an escalator? Guess what? It's elevators, because there's some people that they cannot get on our train without that elevator. And we prioritize escalators before elevators. So there's a debate there if that was the right decision. But so now with the federal money, we can actually finally try to get some money for elevators. $350 million right there up for grabs. So that's a good one. Also, when we talk about modernization and infrastructure, we really need to start talking about why. A lot of times we put the safety through design elements in there, but we then don't tell anyone. So do you know what's a real thing? Is stairwells smelling like piss. At transit, in cities, not so much in airports, y'all do a really good job at cleaning, but it's a real thing. And so when you show people, we're gonna break down what was brick and we're gonna make it glass, one, that's gonna make me as a woman feel safer in that station. 2, if I'm the station agent and an employee who's a very critical stakeholder, I'm gonna feel safer because I can see all the way through. And 3, things are not gonna smell because there's not these hidden corners with God only knows what's happening. So I really want you to embrace this storytelling of what these infrastructure changes are doing beyond just, it's modern, it's beautiful, it's clean. People just fall asleep. If you say your stairwells are not going to smell like urine, guess what? Someone's listening and they're like, wow, BART's really changing things. And then also, wherever you stand on free transit, we still have fare gates. We're always going to have fare gates. So we have a really exciting $90 million program to replace system-wide our fare gates. And I just keep telling everyone I work with, we've got to do better. The fare gates need to be beautiful, inviting, welcome, accessible, wide for wheelchairs and luggage and big strollers and cargo bikes. Guess what everyone did during the pandemic? They bought a cargo bike and they want to bring it on BART, so let's keep it easy. So that's a really exciting program also that we'll be putting money out there for people to come give us very beautiful fare gates. I think that's my last slide. Oh no, the Big Daddy. This is, if you do infrastructure and you haven't heard about our Link 21 program, I should be fired. Because this program, how much money did I have up here? $28 billion, yes, with a B. It's a mega project that's gonna help connect Northern California, all of Northern California through rail. It's gonna build a second Transbay tube. That's so exciting for us. And so H&TB's done a great job. They're our partners with this. And we're really excited to get more of the contracts out. And it's, if you don't know about the program, look it up because it's transformational, tons of money involved. And so I know that at the end of the day, you all want to hear about what's in the pipeline, right?
All right, thank you. And so, Glenda, we'll turn to you. Alicia's talked about the experience of families and women and people to increase ridership and invite them. In 2028, we have this little international event that we'll be hosting here in the city. So can you share with us what LA was thinking about in creating that experience for our visitors? Because you guys are essentially the gateway to people coming to this region and exploring it. So love to hear about that.
So as many of you already know, we're going through a $15 billion modernization effort at the airport. Just a little project of adding a new automated people mover, a consolidated car rental facility, an intermodal facilities, additional parking locations. The investment that we're making is really, truly as part of the innovation, guest experience. The airport hasn't not been modernized since the last Olympics in the 80s. And so this is a great opportunity for us to showcase to the world that we're truly building a world-class airport, not only for Los Angeles, but for the world. By the time that we get to the Olympics, that investment will grow to over $20 billion with our new airfield and terminal modernization project that has some airfield improvements, some new roadway systems, and a new concourse and a new terminal. So we're very excited about that. The challenging part right now is the construction of our projects, making sure that our airport runs smoothly and that we're still providing that exceptional passenger experience for everyone who's enduring. Not only before construction, you had to endure the traffic of just being in the airport. Now you're dealing with traffic and construction that the airport is causing. So we're still trying to attend to the needs of millions of passengers each year. We just received last week that we are 5th in the world. We were 3rd before the pandemic hit, so we're really excited about those numbers. Also, it's very important for us to continue working with the local stakeholders and surrounding communities to make sure that our projects are providing for these families that are living and breathing here and in California, in Los Angeles. We also have to be good neighbors to our community members who are working through these projects, helping us plan these projects in a way where it works for everyone and is conscious of people's needs and transportation needs, work needs, sustainable needs. Right? We all live and breathe near these projects, so we need to make sure that these projects are built in a sustainable and clean way. So we're trying to do that very much with all our projects. Also, at the federal level, we need to make sure that we go after these future funding opportunities. Sia mentioned that some of this money, people think, oh, you're getting a lot of money from the federal government. Maybe, for example, for us, the Investment and Jobs Act will only provide about less than $1 billion for funding, and even that, is only a fraction of our $20 billion, and it comes with a lot of procurement rules that we may not be able to use. We may not be able to build our projects because we're building using alternative delivery methods that are precluded by these procurement rules. So, making sure that we go after these funding dollars, is very important for us. So that's our big push right now. There's a sense that there's a lot of money coming in, and unfortunately, we may not be eligible because of the new innovation, the new practices in our design bid models for all of these new projects. And obviously, all these projects need to be built faster, quicker, and more efficiently. And also, our bonding, help with financing and bonding, reducing those costs will help the airports in order to build these projects faster.
Thank you. And if you want to see what LAX will look like in a short amount of time, Glenda, do you want to advance to the next slide and we'll cue up this video?
Presenting the future of LAX. Easier, faster, more efficient. Get to your plane on time without the stress. Easily transfer between terminals. Quickly access your rental car or connect with Metro Light Rail. All this becomes a reality with the new automated People Mover. Relax above traffic and enjoy the view. Go from Metro to your terminal in 10 minutes or less. Trains arrive every 2 minutes. Easy on, easy off. Construction begins in 2018 with completion in 2023. It's the easier, faster, more efficient future of LAX. Learn more by visiting flylax.com.
So easier and faster. Definitely people want to hear that when they go to the airport. So Julie, let's talk about the work that Metro's doing when people exit the airport and how they connect with the rest of the region.
There we go. I think it's on now. We're building an airport metro connector, which connects to the People Mover at the 96th Street station of the Crenshaw line. So that's just broke ground on our major contract, I think 2 months ago or something like that. So we're working, to connect. The whole design of that facility was designed with the customer experience in mind. So what that means is, short journeys, tour mode signage, public art. Tim Lindholm texted me and said, the building is essentially a wayfinding machine and finding your particular mode is intuitive if you follow the canopy system. So thank you, Tim. But another thing that's big that's happening at Metro right now, too, in addition to the Airport Metro Connector station, is a new focus on the customer experience in general. We have a new customer experience office that we never had before. So Chief Customer Experience Officer, and we did a poll of all of our customers. And what's also interesting about Metro is our fare box recovery isn't the best compared to BART, especially. But we found that, our ridership never fell below 50%. So a lot of our riders are essential workers. And, we're working on pandemic. One thing that we did lose was a lot of the commuting professional public. If they're not transit dependent, we're working to try and entice them back to the system. Some of that's telecommuting, but then others, I think, driving, safety, et cetera. So we did a survey of all of our riders, and we found out the number 2 issues that they're concerned about are safety and cleanliness. So you will see a huge increase. I ride the train every day. I'm transit dependent because my son drives my car every day. But I see when I ride the Gold Line every day to Union Station, I see, when I get off that train, the custodians come through, they're cleaning. We've got a major initiative right now where we're working to replace all of our cloth seats in our entire fleet this year. And that's because they're hard to clean. And do you want to sit on something that doesn't look clean, right? That doesn't make the experience as nice as it could be. And then safety, too, making sure that we have that safety presence so that we can get the people back. And then connectivity, too, another major thing that's happening at Metro right now. How many of you, have any of you tried Metro Micro? Anyone? It solves some of our first mile, last mile issues. I'm lucky because I live 5 blocks from the station. I can walk, right? But if I lived a mile and had to take a bus to that station, I might rethink that, right? I can schedule a Metro Micro ride to get, from wherever I am to the station so that I can ride. So we're looking at more and more things to try and help the customer improve that experience. So those are our focuses this year.
Okay, awesome. Now, Sia, you mentioned in your comments about the inequities that the pandemic revealed. So what I'm going to ask is for each of us, for the sake of time, we'll just go down the line. Share what equity means to your agency or your firm, and highlight some things that you guys are doing differently in thinking about equity and how this infrastructure can be used to advance equity.
As I mentioned, Plenary, we are long-term equity investors, developers, and operators of public infrastructure. So we are a public-private partnership developer. For us, the key concept in delivering assets over a life cycle of an asset really depends on the ultimate user. So if it's a library, the people who use a library. In a transit environment, especially in the post-pandemic, we also have to be thinking about the fact that transit is becoming more of a housing solution for the unhoused, and it's the type of thing that transit agencies are struggling with. So for us, equity, for us, inclusivity, for us, diversity really means what the ultimate objective of that asset is and how do we deal with people who ultimately use it while maintaining the integrity, the dignity of the people that may be underserved in the process. Specific to our project delivery mechanism, one of the things we do, we try to look at it from a multiple different viewpoints. First and foremost is absolute integration of all the, not only the requirements, but the objectives of an owner with respect to all the, the SBE, the WEB, the MBE processes as a part of not only the initial design and construction, but also long-term operations. We also then take a look at workforce development. We have a group within Plenary that does specifically go out, meet with the owners, meet with the folks that are trying to put objectives of a project together. To give you a case in point, we just recently won the Washington, D.C. street lighting program that replaces 75,000 street lights over the next 2 years. But in order to maintain the whole concept of equity, we are reprioritizing the work, and we are replacing. First of all, we're developing design and construction workforce in Ward 7 and 8 in a district where there are traditionally been underserved and underrepresented in the construction trade industry. We're also replacing the light poles there first because traditionally those wards, those communities have not had the access to street lights and all the other elements there. So with respect to engagement, we also look at 3 different ways. We take a look at kind of a pre-bid, pre-planning process where we go out and we engage with the community. Then through the bid, we work to try to actually develop a plan that very specifically talks about how we plan on implementing a very diverse, inclusive workforce. And then during the asset delivery, both design and construction, and ultimately over the life cycle operations and maintenance, we try to make sure that the objectives are met. We're trying to make sure that the workforce is developed, and then do all of this through kind of an implementation, an umbrella organization within each of our project asset companies.
Thank you. Julie, we know that Metro is a leader when it comes to equity and being standing out there and addressing issues and engaging community. Could you share a little bit about that?
Everything we do right now is based on equity. So we have a whole equity plan in our countywide planning group where everything they do from a regional planning perspective focuses on equity. Every board report we write, there's an equity section now. There's an equity assessment tool you have to fill out before you can get a capital project approved that talks about how that proposed project is going to affect equity in the region. And from a construction perspective, we're starting to look at projects too as how we build. Who needs the project first? Do I build south to north, north to south? And some of those decisions factor into our decision making so that we make sure that who needs it most gets it first.
Thank you. Alicia?
At BART, I think I'm really proud of us because we just go right into it. We say, is our system contributing to systemic racism? So we just get right to it. And if you're not talking about racism within your organization, you are not going about equity correctly. Just using the word equity is too much of a buzzword. This is really about racism at the end of the day, and how can we build systems to tear those systems? How can we build new systems to contribute to making the world a better place? And so one of the interesting new things that we're doing is we're paying for outreach. These days of, wait, what? You're paying for outreach, Alicia? Yes, and that's part of our equity initiatives. The initiative, the days of saying, please come and meet us at a town hall and give us your free feedback, and take time away from your family. What happens? You see the same people over and over again. So instead, working with community-based organizations and actually paying. And I understand as a transit agency, I cannot cut a check. I cannot cut you a check to show up. So sometimes you just go get Visa gift cards. So we're trying just new things, and especially with youth engagement. Do you know how important it is to talk to young people if we're going to attract future writers? And a lot of our agencies aren't doing it, and that is something we are doing, and we're paying for it. And then I would just say, in terms of infrastructure, is making sure we're not displacing communities. I mean, it's going back to those core, what does equity really mean, and then how can we advance in a true, meaningful way.
Thank you. Glenda, Sia had touched on Weeby contracting. So did you want to share the video that LAWA has on their Hire LAX program? Maybe go to the next slide and see. Oh, there we go.
My name is Leopold Robitou.
My name is Keishel Smith.
I'm James Moreno.
What does Hire LAX mean to you?
It means hope. It brought hope to my life.
You think the Hire LAX program will impact these students' lives?
Definitely.
This has opened the door for me and my family to have a future.
These skills help graduates form the foundations of their own careers in construction that can last a lifetime.
It really is making a difference in the community and for the community, and it doesn't just change the lives of the students, it changes the lives of the families as well.
The training that you receive is going to be a lifelong imprint. You will not be the same.
Building trades unions are made up of the most talented men and women in the construction industry. Our members live in the community, and it's important for us to include every community within our membership.
The mission of the Hire LAX Apprenticeship Readiness Program is to maximize the economic impact of LAX by hiring local workers who reflect the diversity of Los Angeles. The 8-week training course is held at Los Angeles Southwest College. There, participants of the program are given the skills to succeed in the construction field.
The type of training that students should expect to receive is both theory and hands-on. In our theory, you're going to learn the basics of blueprint reading. You're going to learn OSHA 10, CPR and first aid, and what is going to be your role and, most importantly, your attitude. As far as hands-on is concerned, it is going to be physical.
Just in the interest of time.
Okay.
So what does equity mean at LAWA? Again, the video says it very clearly that for us, it's making sure that the jobs that we're providing and creating all go to the families and workers that live in the surrounding communities of the airport, also in the Los Angeles region. These projects are transform people's lives. They give them new meaning. They give them, food, education for their children, a mode of transportation. Many of us in Los Angeles face a lot of challenges in terms of economic disparities in our communities, and so these projects help people get a new life. Get that confidence that you are worth something, and so providing these jobs is very important for LAWA. Also, on the contracting side, we introduced a contractor finance assistance program in the last 2 years. So that's to help a lot of small business and local businesses be able to contract with the city of Los Angeles, not only with LAWA but with the city, to make sure that we are reaching out to local community members who are small business owners to come and work on these large construction projects. And we're very proud of the work that we've been doing. We've also set up a new business jobs and resources division at LAWA that is completely in charge of making sure that we create these partnerships, that we conduct additional outreach, because again, innovation, right? So many people became business owners out of the pandemic, providing new services, digital media, help with outreaching to new stakeholders. So for us, that's what equity means: making sure that the people who are going to be working on these projects, and not only benefiting from these projects, are economically being helped by these projects.
Thank you, Colin.
Sure. So As briefly as possible, Fengate is an equity investor in public infrastructure projects around North America, and we are really sensitive to the fact that when we invest in a project, those dollars have impacts and ripple effects throughout the communities in which these projects are going to exist. And so, first and foremost, we want to make sure that when we are thinking about which projects to participate in, that these projects have meaningful equity impacts just in terms of what they are. So there are a whole class of projects that we just really aren't interested in being a part of because the equity impacts are just not what we want to align ourselves with. So it starts there. But then when we've talked about some of the programs that are typically part of these projects, for us, when we do participate in a project, what equity comes down to is listening. We're very proud to be, partners with LAX with some of the programs that Glenda mentioned. But one of the most successful instances, I think, of our portfolio is the Prince George's County. We're a partner in a bundle of K through 12 schools in Prince George's County, Maryland, and what Prince George's County gave us the opportunity to do was to establish the objectives for equity that we wanted to achieve through our investments in the in that bundle of schools, but to really wait until we'd actually been awarded the project before we sat down with the communities that we were going to be working with and the people that were going to be attending and working at those schools and asking them what they wanted, right? Listening and asking what would be helpful for you? How can the value of the equity that we bring to the table, the dollars that we bring to the table, the human resources that we bring to the table, how can that be most beneficial for you in your communities? And getting that feedback, not during the chaos of a bid process, but actually once we are situated and in the community and set up and really becoming a fabric of what this community looks like, we think has been incredibly powerful in terms of generating the outcomes that we're all trying to achieve. And it really allows us to get some additional insights into what communities tell us that they need as opposed to what we believe that they might need. So that's been an instance that we've really appreciated the collaboration and flexibility of one of our public partners in terms of delivering on those values.
No, that's very important because beyond the contracting, like you said, long-term equity outcomes is really what every agency and firm is looking for. So Colin, we'll go back to you, and for time, we're gonna have to make our responses pretty quick, but our favorite topic, our approaches to project delivery. What are you seeing in the market right now as far as innovations around project delivery?
Yeah, so I think that, for a long time, people have looked at different types of project delivery, and I used to work in Congress, and I remember when design build was innovative project delivery. And in many cases, it still might be, but I think that what we're starting to learn is that project delivery is just a tool. There is no better type of project delivery or worse type of project delivery. What's important is that procurement agencies, public agencies have access and an understanding of the full suite of project delivery tools, what their benefits are, what their drawbacks are, what they need to do as an agency to have the capacity to deliver them well, and what types of partners they might need. And that really is dependent on the project, the agency, the geography, the funding sources, to an earlier comment. But the key to all of this, I think, is a greater emphasis on collaboration. I think that what we're seeing, especially through supply chain disruptions, through all sorts of complexities and increasing complexity really in the types of projects that we're delivering, is we need a greater emphasis on collaboration that for the types of projects we were delivering 2 generations ago wasn't quite as necessary. And so whether it is a construction manual general contractor, a progressive design build, or PDAs, or more progressive types of P3s, all of those things involve greater levels of collaboration and alignment of incentives throughout the design and construction and then operations and maintenance process to make sure that we're getting the outcomes that we're looking for through that increasing complexity and challenge.
Sia, what are you seeing as far as innovation?
Everything Colin said is...
There
we go. Everything Colin said is true. I want to add 4 quick points. First, I think if everything's on a table, then everything should be on a table. No carve-outs. None of this, we've always done it this way. we're not going to be looking at new opportunities or new methodologies. The second element is risk. One of the reasons collaborative conversations are becoming more of a norm is that it used to be that risk was placed with the party who best managed it. Over the past several years, the most recent experience shows that risk is best placed with the party who can price it the cheapest. And that really has caused a lot of pushback in the industry. The third element I really wanted to talk about here is this whole conversation about looking at project delivery, not through the lens of construction and design, but through the lens of a life cycle of a particular asset. And how best does that help deliver that asset to the ultimate public and ultimate user. Finally, this concept of sequential project development. Lots of public sector owners spend millions and millions of dollars coming up with beautiful glossy reports that sit on a shelf for a project that'll never be built because it is so darn expensive. So we think development of projects in parallel, both in terms of the physical impacts, social impacts, economic impacts, ESG impacts, DEI impacts, all have to be done at the same time. And that is best done through a collaborative environment with all the key stakeholders at the table.
Okay, Julie, I know we're going to take a little moment of privilege and extend our panel.
One of the things we're doing right now is pivoting towards alternative project delivery. And that was the industry, quite frankly, the transportation industry is starting to move in this direction. So through our outreach events, through our market sounding, through our studies through AGC, we're hearing this over and over again. So we're starting to look and pivot towards CMGC and progressive design build. Honestly, related to what he just said, that bringing the contractor on early to get their feedback during the development process of that project. And particularly because one of the challenges that we're experiencing that you're going to see on the next slide is that prices are just going through the roof, but we've got fixed budgets. So how do you work together to deliver a project for the public good that you can still do within budget? Because funds aren't, limitless, right? And hopefully avoid, a lot of the cantankerous claims type, more collaborative approach for projects. I don't have the clicker, but the next slide. Thank you. I think so. Oh, I see. Sorry. So bid prices. I can't read sideways, so you'll just have to read it. But in the past 6 months, geez, I've been doing this market analysis report. My boss has had me doing it like every 3 months. It's absolutely phenomenal. Prices are going through the roof. So how do we, if we still want to deliver these projects, how do we do it and make sure that we can without, as you mentioned, ending up with a project that's no longer affordable, right? So bringing contractors on. Part of that also, as Colin mentioned, is certain contractors will only do business with collaborative project delivery. And we need to expand our pool of contractors. So.
Alicia, what's one thing do you want the private sector to take away about collaboration with the public sector?
Just our philosophy that when we bring you on, you're part of our family. So it's this one family idea. So there needs to be real-time budget communication so that if design is going over budget, you tell us right away so we can de-scope, unfortunately, if we have to. But it's just this, open communication. And then please, when you come in to meet with our general manager, please don't sit in a group of all white men. Look at the panel today. The 3 people from public agencies are all women. So you also need to just keep that in mind in every step you take with a public agency.
That's equity. Glenda?
For LAWA, for us, I think we need private sector partners to come ready with the newest technology, embracing digital design and build information modeling. That's helped us really, create our projects to be more sustainable. For example, in our Midfield Satellite Concourse South project, which is under pre-design right now, we've identified ways to reduce costs while incorporating more materials that are made with lower carbon inputs and lower embodied carbon. So with the focus on sustainability and using that digital market, I think is key for the private sector.
Okay, each of you, we're wrapping up our panel, have 10 seconds, maybe 15. we started out the conversation talking about people, how infrastructure shapes the built environment. We talked about the user experience. We talked about equity. So what do you want to be the one thing that people remember you for the projects that you work on?
Value.
One word.
Skipping.
Epicness.
Epicness. All right. I think she made a new word too. Innovation.
Oh, sorry.
Definitely, I would say innovation as well, and changing the face of LA, actually.
Awesome. Sia?
Affordable, impactive.
All right, Glenda?
Legacy and sustainability.
All right. Well, thank you all. Please join me in giving them a round of applause.